Admiral Makarov was the second of the 4 Bayan-class armored cruisers built for the Imperial Russian Navy during the mid-1900s. While initially assigned to the Baltic Fleet, the ship was detached to the Mediterranean several times before the start of World War I in 1914. She was modified to lay mines shortly after the war began. Admiral Makarov laid mines herself during the war and provided cover for other ships laying minefields. The ship fought several inconclusive battles with German ships during the war, including the Battle of Åland Islands in mid-1915. She also defended Moon Sound during the German invasion of the Estonian islands in late 1917. Admiral Makarov was decommissioned in 1918 and sold for scrap in 1922. Design and description: Admiral Makarov was 449.6 feet long overall. She had a maximum beam of 57.5 feet, a draft of 22 feet and displaced 7,750 long tons. The ship had a crew of 568 officers and men. Admiral Makarov was named in honor of Admiral Stepan Makarov. The ship had 2 vertical triple expansion steam engines with a design total of 16,500 indicated horsepower intended to propel the cruiser at 21 knots. However, during sea trials, they developed 19,320 indicated horsepower and drove the ship to a maximum speed of 22.55 knots. Steam for the engines was provided by 26 Belleville boilers. She could carry a maximum of 1,100 long tons of coal, although her range is unknown. Admiral Makarov's main armament consisted of 2 8-inch 45 caliber guns in single gun turrets fore and aft. Her 8 6-inch guns were mounted in casemates on the sides of the ship's hull. Anti-torpedo boat defense was provided by 20 75mm 50 caliber guns. 8 of these were mounted in casemates on the side of the hull and in the superstructure. The remaining guns were located above the 6-inch gun casemates in pivot mounts with gun shields. Admiral Makarov also mounted 4 47mm Hotchkiss guns. The ship also had 2 submerged 18-inch torpedo tubes, 1 on each broadside. The ship used Krupp armor throughout. Her waterline belt was 190mm thick over her machinery spaces. Fore and aft, it reduced to 90mm. The upper belt and the casemates were 60mm thick. The armor deck was 50mm thick. Over the central battery it was of single plate, but elsewhere it consisted of a 30mm plate over 2 10mm plates. The gun turrets were protected by 132mm of armor and the conning tower had sides 136mm thick. Service: Admiral Makarov was built by Forges et Chantiers de la Méditerranée in Le Seine-sur-Mer, France. The ship was laid down in April 1905, and she was launched on the 28th of May 1906. Admiral Makarov was completed in April 1908. The ship sailed for the Baltic on the 27th of May and reached Tallinn, Estonia on the 11th of June, where she was assigned to the Baltic Fleet. A few months later, she returned to the Mediterranean and provided assistance to the survivor of the Messina earthquake in December. The ship then rejoined the Baltic Fleet, but she was transferred back to Mediterranean in 1910, where she represented the Russian Empire, together with the battleship Zazarevich, the armored cruiser Rurik, and the protected cruiser Bergata, at the coronation of Nicholas I of Montenegro in August 1910. Admiral Makarov was back in the Baltic during 1911 and she made a port visit to Copenhagen in 1912. The following year, the ship was one of a group of cruisers that visited Brest, France, the Isle of Portland in Great Britain, and Stavanger, Norway. When World War I began, Admiral Makarov was assigned to the 1st Cruiser Brigade. On the 17th of August, the ship, together with the armoured cruiser Gromoboi, encountered 2 German light cruisers and an auxiliary mine layer near the entrance to the Gulf of Finland en route to lay a minefield at the entrance. The Russian commander refused combat because he mistakenly thought that the Germans had 2 additional armoured cruisers with them. Shortly afterward, Admiral Makarov was modified to carry mines. She laid her first mines in early December when she was one of a group of ships that mined the northern and western entrances to the Gulf of Danzig. The following month, she provided cover as other cruisers laid minefields in the western Baltic Sea, near Bornholm and Rügen Islands on the night of the 12th of January 1915. On the 13th of February, the ship was en route to cover another minefield sortie in the Gulf of Danzig, when Rurik ran aground in fog off Faroe Island. She was pulled off despite taking 2,400 long tons of water aboard, and Admiral Makarov escorted the damaged ship back home, together with her sister Bayan and 2 protected cruisers. She fought a brief and inconclusive action with the light cruiser SMS München during the night of 6-7 May while covering a minefield sortie off Libau. On the 2nd of July, the ship participated in the Battle of Åland Islands when intercepted and decoded wireless signals informed the Russians that a small German force was at sea to lay a minefield off the Åland Islands. Rear Admiral Mikhail Bakhiev was already at sea with Admiral Makarov, Bayan, Rurik, the protected cruisers Bogata and Oleg, and the destroyer Novik en route to bombard Memel. Rurik and Novik got separated from the others in fog, but the rest of the force encountered the light cruiser SMS Augsburg and a number of destroyers escorting the mine layer SMS Albatross. The Russians concentrated on Albatross, which was forced to run aground in Swedish territorial waters, while the faster Augsburg escaped to the south. The Russian cruisers were low on ammunition when they encountered 2 more German cruisers and broke off the action after exchanging fire. When the German launched Operation Albion, the invasion of the Estonian islands of Saaremaa, Hiiumaa and Muhu, on the 11th of October 1917, Admiral Makarov was in Finland, although she was assigned to the naval forces defending the Gulf of Riga. The ship arrived in Moon Sound on the 14th of October and engaged German destroyers attempting to enter the Sound from the west until ordered to withdraw on the 19th of October. The Treaty of Brest-Litovsk required the Soviets to evacuate the base at Helsinki in March 1918 to have the ships based there in turn by newly independent Finland, even though the Gulf of Finland was still frozen over. Admiral Makarov was among the first group of ships that sailed on the 25th of March and reached Kronstadt 5 days later in what became known as the Ice Voyage. She was paid off upon arrival and did not participate in the Russian Civil War. The ship was sold for scrap in 1922 and broken up in Stettin.